Okay, let's call this meeting to order. It's Tuesday, December 7th. The time is 6:05. This is a Champaign County Board meeting, Committee of the Whole for Highway Facilities and Environment and Land Use Areas. I would point out that our rules changed somewhat from last term in that I am chairing these meetings, or I can chair these meetings. My intent is that probably will not continue, but I will do this one until we figure out a pattern for the rest of the 2 years. Roll call. By the way, our Kat Bork is ill, so Ms. Busey will be acting as our clerk tonight. Roll call.
Ammons. Anderson. Alex. Bensel. Bergson. Betts.
Here.
Carter. Coert. Holderfield. James. Jay. Jones. Knott. Kurtz. Langenheim. McGinty. Michaels. Mosier. Nudo. O'Connor. Petrie. Quisenberry. Richards. Rosales. Sapp. Schrader. Weibel.
Here. I think we have 15.
You have quorum.
We have a quorum. I would add that Ms. Anderson, Mr. Langenheim, and Mr. Alex informed me they would not be able to make the meeting tonight. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 5th, 2010. So moved. Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Ms. Ammons.
I'll soon they forget.
There's some name changes tonight. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Seek approval of the agenda. Moved by Ms. Ammons, second by Mr. Rosales. Discussion. Mr. Kurtz, we're going to pull an item off?
Yes. On ELOC.
Microphone, please.
What's that?
Microphone.
I'm sorry. ELOC 9D. We received information from the state's attorney this afternoon. We're pulling that off until we get better information on that.
All right. Further discussion. Please note Mr. Mosier has arrived. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Public participation. Mr. Stephen Rosenberg. Please come forward. Microphone right there. It should be on. It's on.
Testing. Yeah. Hi, I'm Stephen Rosenberg, and I'm the owner of Green Purpose, and we're proposing to open a center for recycling, reuse, repurposing on a subscription based. So if anyone has any questions at any point, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Is there further public participation? Okay, moving on to communications. Ms. Petrie, you can ask me a question, yes. Microphone, please.
Would you mind asking Mr. Rosenberg to leave us some contact information?
We have contact information right here.
Thank you.
Further communications. Ms. Petrie.
Yes, I would like to let my fellow board members know that starting January from 5:30 to 6:30 before the monthly board meeting that I will be at the Champaign Public Library to meet with constituents, and I invite fellow board members to join me at that time to have the opportunity to meet any county constituents who stop by within the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you. I was thinking about that. I believe the magic number is 7. No more than 7, please. Okay, any more communications? Okay, let's move on to Highway and Transportation. Ms. Code is not here. Mr. J, would you please come up and chair? Were you awake last night? You asked for it.
Actually, would you like to discuss that openly?
Monthly reports. Entertain a motion to approve and place on file.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Good, we'll get all that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passed. We have a pretty good list of bridges the county engineer has here to present us tonight. I would encourage us maybe to make an anonymous motion because I think they're all about the same, but I'll let him explain that to you.
Good evening. You'll see 8 different bridge petitions from Township Highway Commissioners on the agenda tonight. And you'll notice that the bridges do vary from a 50-50 type of project where the county pays 50% and the township pays 50%. And on the other bridge petitions, it shows that the township pays 50% of the engineering cost and 10% of the construction. The reason there are differences in those resolutions is that by state law, there is a township bridge program, and any bridge that is 20 feet in length along the roadway is eligible for township bridge funding. We have some 600 bridges of that length in Champaign County. Townships, road commissioners, as long as they fund an appropriate amount, can petition to the county for county bridge funds and township bridge program funds. So if those bridges are over 20 feet long, the township basically ends up paying 10% of the cost of the construction, and then they share in the preliminary and construction engineering costs. All smaller structures, those that are under 20 feet, which there are a couple on the county engineer's bridge petitions tonight, the county bridge fund, which we levy for and property taxes are assessed for, is used in order to match by state statute 50-50 with the townships to build those projects. So our township bridge funds yearly run in the neighborhood of about $350,000. As you know, we levy a substantial amount for county bridge funds, and $900,000 of those funds are in a construction fund for these types of projects. So this is, last year we did a large majority of projects on roads. As you can see here, we've got 9 projects, and there's actually 3 others that have already been approved. This is going to be kind of the year of the bridge, whereas last year was the year of the roads. So if anybody has any questions, I can take them. I don't know how you want to handle the petitions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Betts.
I would like to make a motion, an omnibus motion, to approve a bridge petition that's denominated in our agenda 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. An ominous motion by Mr. Betts. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, John. Jeff, when we say 50% of the engineering cost, is there actually money changes hands there, or how do we handle that?
We hire a structural engineer to do the design. We pay the structural engineer, and the township reimburses us.
The township doesn't have to pay the county back for our troops to do the engineering inspection.
We charge them 2.5% of the cost for our construction and our expertise out on the job, and that's a real bargain. I mean, a consulting engineer would charge them 15 or 20%, but we obviously, if we're going to be working on a township project, we have to recoup some amount of those costs that we incur. So we, on a $100,000 job, 2.5%, $2,500 doesn't come out to much.
On our Crittenden Bridge, at almost $250,000, it's substantial, though.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Schrader?
Jeff, are these all scheduled to be replaced, or any of these 8 bridges something that's just showed up with a deficiency and needs to be replaced?
As you know, we do bridge inspections biannually, so we inspect every bridge in the county on a 2-year rotation. The bridges that are in worse shape, we actually do on a year rotation. So they have what they call a sufficiency rating, which is a rating that basically denotes the deficiencies or the sufficiency of the bridge. So once the sufficiency ratings get down to a certain level, we kind of prod the township commissioners to see if we can get them to replace those bridges. Now they actually, they have to have money in their coffers as well, and some of our townships, take quite a long time to be able to build up enough money to do a bridge project. So, are these the 8 most efficient bridges in the county? No, they're not. Are they in the top 20 or 30? Yes. But if a township doesn't have funds available, they may have to wait a couple of years in order to build up their funds. And honestly, it's up to them to petition us. We can't make them replace a bridge. If they don't want to replace it, they don't petition us, and it doesn't get replaced.
If I can follow up.
Go ahead.
Some of this, was there anything premature that you know of that since the floods of 2009 last year when we had all that water, would it probably brought some of this on premature?
No.
Degradation? It wasn't? Okay.
No. Nope.
Right, thanks.
Mrs. Petrie?
I think you may have answered my question when you were answering Mr. Schroeder, but just for a clarification, this indicates to me that it's very difficult for you to set forth, say, a 10-year long-range work plan on bridges, since you have to wait for the initiative to come from the township. Is
Right.
accurate?
Yeah. On the county system, we have a long-range plan where we can see the deficiencies of the bridges and the deterioration. Obviously, we can see it on the township side too, but it's really up to the township highway commissioner to petition us to do the project.
Any further questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. J. Jeff, is that 2.5% engineering costs that we take back from the township, is that a historic cost, or is that legislated by the state?
No, there's nothing legislated by the state. It's just a lot of counties. Actually, there was just an email that went around to all the county highway engineers. A majority of the counties that responded to that email, and it wasn't sent by me, but by another county, a majority of them actually charged their full cost for an engineer to be out on a project, including benefits, IMRF, Social Security, the whole 9 yards. We don't get anywhere near that back from the townships at a 2.5% rate to be out on the jobs. It's just, it's enough to maybe cover our hourly costs without any benefits of that person being out there on that township bridge project. But we also understand that townships are struggling for funds, and so we try to do it at a obviously a reduced cost.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, item number 9 then is a resolution for the replacement of 01-4306. This is if anybody has driven the road from Thomasboro up to Gifford through Flatville, and you've driven over this bridge, you know which one it is because it about throws you out of your seat when you go over it. It's been deteriorating for some time. We actually have $600,000 in federal funds to go along with this $300,000 in county motor fuel tax funds. This project is estimated to cost $900,000 for the replacement of that bridge. Most likely it would be bid late summer to early fall because of it's going to have to be on a federal or a state letting, and it's actually an FY 2012 for the state, so we have to wait until at least July 1st before we can bid the project. But we need to appropriate the money so we can begin the engineering in order to design the bridge.
Do we have a motion to do that? It's been moved, seconded. Mr. Betts? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Item number 10 is the resolution awarding the contracts for the aggregate materials for the road districts. We had the bid opening on December the 2nd last week in order to haul all the supply and haul all of the aggregate materials to the township highway commissioners throughout the county. In a separate handout that I put on your desks before the meeting, you'll see there a copy of the materials bid tabulation that shows all of the trucking firms and the township road districts and the prices that were bid on hauling of the rock. We have some over 30,000 tons of aggregate that's hauled in during the winter at a total cost of about $450,000 for the aggregate. This is all of their CA6, their road pack, their seal coat aggregate, any kind of aggregate that they may need in order to do their maintenance programs. And this is all funded through the motor fuel tax fund through the state of Illinois, and those monies come through our office. Just as a comparison to similar bid item from 2009, the prices that we're seeing in the 2010 bid opening are about 2.5% over what they were last year. So we had some really significant jumps a couple years ago, and now we're just seeing kind of the standard inflationary difference in the bid costs. All of the township highway commissioners that you in each of these road districts have approved these bids. It comes to the county board for your approval as well.
Was that a motion, Mrs. Ammons? It's been moved to second. Second by Mr. Kurtz. Any further discussion? Yes, Larry.
Just a quick question. Do all township districts participate? And if they do, were there just some districts that, for example, I don't see anything on here for Mahomet, so they would not have any projects in need of this type of service?
Not all township. You can use your motor fuel tax funds for a number of different things. Some townships use them to rebuild roads. Some of them use them to buy road oil. Some of them use it to buy their aggregate. Mahomet Township chooses not to buy aggregate with motor fuel tax funds.
Mrs. Petrie?
This is just a clarification. It says the letting was held on the 2nd of December, but this is coming to us on the 7th of December, so this is after the fact?
Yeah, we always bring it to you for approval after the bids have been opened, because it's the county board's responsibility to award those bids to the lowest responsible bidder. So actually, we cannot begin any work on a project until the bids are brought before the county board, and the county board has approved by resolution the award of that bid.
Thank you.
Mr. Weibel?
Jeff, do you know if what the sources of the crushed gravel is? Obviously, some of it's coming from Tuscola. Do you know if is most of it coming from Tuscola or some of it coming from Vermilion County?
A vast majority of it comes from Tuscola. Some of it does come from Fairmont.
Okay.
But those are the only two sources, I believe.
They are the closest ones.
There are some gravel sources up north, but we haven't seen any aggregate come from those sources lately.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Salmons?
I just wanted to clarify. These are bidders. These are just truckers that are actually going to pick up the stuff and bring it to these locations.
That's right.
And then this is done annually, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, these bidders get a bid from a quarry for X number of dollars. They add on their cost to truck it. They pay the quarry. They bill us. We pay them. They haul it from the quarry to a designated stockpile site for each township.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
The last item, there was a bridge project location map included within the within your agenda, just to show you where those bridges that were in those 8 or 9 different projects were located. So no action there.
Okay. The chair doesn't have anything to report, except that it's nice to look at you all from the front as opposed to the back. You look a lot better this way.
You too, John.
Mr. Schrader.
Or if we're on to other business, I have a question for the highway
We're on other
engineer, please.
business.
Thank you. Jeff, could you surmise to us how the Monticello Road resurfacing project went, and if it's complete, and how things went, if we were in budget, over budget, and
Yeah, we actually
please.
are just making final payment on that project, and we're, I don't know, $50,000 under the bid on that total project. As you know, the first 5 miles of that project was a federal aid project. That was safety funds that we received through a solicitation process through CUATS. And then the last 6 miles was a motor fuel tax project. And I think it went real well. I like the result of the rumble strips at the center line as well as at the edge line. The widened 4-foot asphalt shoulders, I believe, are considerable help as far as safety of the roadway goes. The only part that is not done to the standard where we would like it is actually the intersection with Route 45. And IDOT is coming through next year with a project on Route 45, and we will be participating in that project to go ahead and complete that intersection at Route 45. So other than that, everything is done. It's been seeded. Not all of the grass or whatever is going to grow has started to come up yet, but the project as a whole is complete, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kurtz?
Jeff, how do we stand on the motor fuel tax? Are we seeing any uptick now that are we leveled off, or are we still dropping? How do we look on that? Because we have a lot of bridges that we're going to need that money.
We're down about 10% from last year. And, you know, I just saw gas $3 before I drove in here today. That doesn't help, obviously. So it continues to go down, and our costs continue to go up. We're fortunate that we have the base here that we do with the population, because I heard a report from the county engineer in Clinton talking at a recent conference I was at, and his entire motor fuel tax monies for the entire year is like $275,000 for the whole year. Ours are $2.7 million. So, I mean, it's all based on population. Obviously, if you got the population, the money follows it, but it's not going up, and I don't really believe it's going to. And we got that influx of funds. It was 100 of the $500 million this year. That was about 1 month's punch in the shoulder of extra motor fuel tax funds for each county. So that probably got us back to about the same level we were at back in 2009. It's projected that we're going to get that once a year for the next 4 years. So that will help us kind of keep on a level plane. But once that money is gone and the bonds are sold and it's over, we're going to see a significant decrease again.
Any other business? Seeing none, I think everything can go on consent. That concludes the highways part of the meeting tonight.
Thank you
for your patience. Thank you.
Next is county facilities. Mr. Betts?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to defer to Mr. Sapp this evening in the
Okay.
spirit of our new arrangement.
We are obviously in the holiday spirit. And it does look nicer from up here. First item on county facilities is a courthouse exterior clock and bell tower renovation project update. Deb, do you have, of course?
And actually, this is the final. The project, we have completed all the payments with the final amendment to the architect contract that you approved last month, that the board approved last month. So you will not see this report anymore. As you see, we have zero left due and owing on all of the contracts, and we will be closing out this account sometime in the next month or two, as soon as we bring forward to you a recommendation of what to do with the funds that remain in the construction fund.
And do we need to receive and place on file?
Please.
I'd like a motion to receive and place on
So
file.
moved.
Moved by Mr. Betts, seconded by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Physical Facilities Director?
Who is not here this evening, but the monthly report is there in the packet for October. With the update on the design build corner physical plant maintenance county storage facility project, I can tell you that the footings are in. The project is on schedule. We anticipate the steel structure to arrive in December, and we are still looking to have this construction project completed by mid-April.
Okay. And so we also need to receive and place on file the facility reports.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Betts, second. Second by Ms. Amons. And, oh, no wonder, your name tag is wrong in front of you. Did you know that?
I had the same problem. I had the same problem. I'm sorry. I guess I should have told you about it. It caused me the same problem.
I pointed that out for you. Okay, so is there any discussion? Yes.
Just one quick question, Jeff. Maybe you can answer this for us, maybe not. But I always try and cross-reference the first page on 32 with 33. So, for example, under electric service on 32 is $763,000 year to date. And then when I look on page 33, which is all electrical utilities, it's $831. Is there a number of other billings? Well, there's a difference there. It always has been, and I just don't know, what their why wouldn't that be the same number?
I don't do these. I don't create these reports.
Is that a question that we can follow up on?
Well, if you look on the far right, the monthly totals are 831, and the report on page 33 is broken down by building.
Right.
So what is your question again? Why 831, 585 does not match up with?
763, 573, second line under page 32, electric service.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
Same thing with gas, but I think we ought to, have something that we know that we're looking at. What is the number? Is it higher or lower? Because you got a budget, and one is over the budget or closer to being at the budget, and one is way under. So
I have a feeling that page 32 reflects the general corporate fund, and page 33 reflects the entire county. We pay electric and gas out of other funds.
For the courthouse and
the courthouse, most of the buildings you're familiar with are out of general corporate, and I think 32 is actually the physical plant budget. But the Regional Planning Commission pays utilities, the nursing home pays utilities, highway pays utilities, and none of those are paid out of the general corporate fund.
Okay, so if I
that's
subtracted
probably
those out,
what
it
the
might be
difference
the
is.
763.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
We'll clarify that for sure, though, and have that answer. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Update on the Ilias roof project?
They got 1/3 through the project, and it is now on hold because of the weather.
Any questions for Deb on the Ilias project? Okay, there is no chair's report. Is there any? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to do a chair's report in the sense that Mr. Sapp is chairing tonight, and I hope that Mr. Sapp and I can work together very closely and do this back and forth, that we are both intimately involved in the physical plant and building issues in the county, and that members will go to either one of us, as well as Mr. Reinhardt, to ask questions in the next term. And I also hope that we are in a position where we don't have to bring contracts to the board on the night of a board meeting and ask them to approve a 50-page contract that they haven't had an opportunity to review. I have watched Mr. Sapp over the years ask that question. I've asked the question, and it's something I think we are both committed to trying to prevent that as much as possible. But what we're seeing tonight, this back and forth, I hope we can do it for the next 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. We did speak briefly after the meeting last night and had a brief discussion about our collaboration to this effort, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Yes.
Speaking on behalf of the caucus, I think I'm speaking for everybody here that's what we were trying to achieve, and I appreciate what Mr. Weibel did, Chair Weibel did to cause this to happen. I think it will help in better communication. I thank you very much for what you did.
Anything else, Mr. Betts, on the chair's report? Okay. Any other business to be brought forward for facilities? Seeing none, I would say just the two items that were Received and placed on file. Thank you.
Next up is Environment and Land Use, Mr. Kurtz.
Hi, good evening. Before I get started, I want to thank Mr. Weibel for this responsibility, and I promise to work with both sides of the aisle on all land issues as well as all of our environmental issues as well. Mr. Schroeder is the Assistant Vice Chair, and I've already talked with him. He will be copied on everything I do, and no more lone wolf, so to speak. I take this responsibility very seriously, and we'll work across the party lines for the benefit of the county. That's what our responsibility is. And I've worked with John and other boards, and we have a good working relationship, I think. And I think it'll be a good collaboration over the next year. Let's get started. Okay. John, we have our recycling options available to Champaign County residents beginning January 1st, 2011. I'm unfamiliar with that. Would you please explain and give us a little background on this and the gentleman?
Actually, Susan Monty is the county's recycling coordinator, and she's here.
Good evening. I wanted to, I thought it was important to provide you all some basic information about recycling options in the county, since, as you probably have heard, the city of Champaign is closing its very, very popular recycling drop-off site at the end of December. And we've been fielding lots of inquiries, and a lot of people are sort of confused about what's going on with recycling. So this information report is provided to you for your use, and it contains, as you can see, information about which communities receive residential curbside recycling. It talks about where there are drop-off sites in the county and who those are intended for. And I tell you about a new business that's in the process of seeking approvals from the city of Champaign, an alternate recycling center. And Stephen Rosenberg is here tonight in case you want to ask him any questions about that. It's in the approvals process. He's requested a rezoning with the city. So it's basic information. If you don't have questions tonight and you want to call me personally or during business hours, I'd be happy to talk with you or provide you whatever information I can.
Mr. Richards?
Is this on the agenda strictly for information only, or is this anticipating future county action on this? If so, what are we thinking about doing for future county action?
As far as I've been told, this is for discussion only tonight, for information, for your information only at this point. Mr. Weibel?
Susan, thank you for the report. It's very nicely detailed. A question for you. Can you say that like on page 2, you talk about in Rantoul, Savoy, Mahomet, St. Joe, Tolono, say at least one local waste hauler offers curbside service. Can you say that's the same company or entity, or are they different entities?
Well, I have to be careful because I cannot endorse one company over another.
No, that's why I not asked for names.
And I don't have information that's complete. I try to know about where all the waste haulers are that operate in the county, but I may be missing some new businesses or something. So I just wanted to make sure that one hauler did provide the service. You're saying...
The question is it the same one in all of these? Are they different haulers?
They may be different, because there are about 13 to 15 different haulers operating, some in several of the communities, but some only in a few.
Can you say how many of those 13 or so do offer curbside recycling?
Well, any that operate within the city of Champaign are required by ordinance to city ordinance, and then Urbana has its own system set up where that happens.
So probably a majority anyway would offer it.
No, not necessarily. It's.
I don't know how many operate in Champaign or Urbana.
Right. You mean offer curbside recycling? It really does depend on the location that they serve. And
do you know how many companies operate in Champaign, Urbana?
Well, we license approximately 13. There may be others that are out there that we're not aware of, that have just recently begun or started. their operations, but I would guess about up to 4 companies or 5 locally offer curbside recycling.
Ms. Petrie?
Building on Mr. Richards' question and exploring this further than just information, down the line, it would be interesting for the county to explore ways and means to put in place things that will help reduce the amount of materials that need to be recycled. This is being done across the country, and we could turn into a county that leads in that manner. So I would like to see sometime after the first of the year that this gets put on the agenda for some further exploration and discussion.
I'd just like to mention that in our land resource management plan that was recently adopted by the county, there is an objective slated for the year 2015 to update and essentially reformulate a solid waste management plan for the county. There are some certain interim steps that we are focused on, essentially setting up a website so we don't have to field so many calls and provide information to the public for this year.
Susan, have you heard anything from Urbana or Champaign about them perhaps expanding their recycling into something in this area?
Well, this is a City of Champaign recycling site that's closing at the end of December, and their budgetary situation calls for no new programs, certainly, in recycling, and they are facing just a very tight budget, as most municipalities are. They intended that drop-off site to serve city residents, and it turns out that for the past several years that it's been in operation, that it's served the whole entire county population, probably, that is aware of it. So they're just focused on serving their own residents.
Ms. Hammonds?
I can't really tell from the map where this is being proposed in Champaign. What is this neighborhood here?
We're talking about Kenyon Road, which is the frontage road off I-74. Now, are you familiar with where the present site is? Well, think about Neal Street as the central north-south street there, and it's opposite. It's across to the east of Neal Street on Kenyon.
Ms. Hallfield?
In looking at all of this, I just had a question. Is there going to be any information provided that will show the cost, the maintenance, how it's going to be facilitated? I mean, this is very vague information.
Right. It's provided in this form only because it's very preliminary at this point. The business is proposing to open. It hasn't yet fully displayed its business plan, at least to persons here at the county. Stephen, would you like to hear a little bit from the business owner?
I would like, because there is a membership fee, there's a point system, and it looks to me, I mean, I could be wrong in what I'm reading. This looks like it's intended to open by January 1st, 2011. Is that correct, this business?
I believe that was the original idea. However, with the City of Champaign rezoning process and other hoops to go through, I would guess that it's going to take a bit longer than that.
Right, because there's going to be a general business to light industrial zoning issue that needs to be approved through the City of Champaign, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to personally hear what the potential cost is going to be to the participants, what the cost is going to be to the county, if there is going to be any cost?
I think to the county.
Or is that too soon?
Well, Deb, are you saying this is out of order?
Well, this is a private business proposal. This is not a proposal that you, the county board, are going to act on. This is just being provided to you for information so that you are aware as one municipality shuts down a publicly funded recycling location, that there is a business that is looking to open one to fill that gap. But this is not a request to you, the county board, to fund it or participate in it in any way at this point, right?
Right. I fully intended this for your information, as you may receive calls and inquiries from the from your constituents. about this.
Mr. Nudo first.
Thank you. Mr. Richards made a comment, and then Ms. Petrie made a comment, and I'm not exactly sure what Ms. Petrie was referring to as far as our involvement in something to be placed on the agenda in future months, but I am personally not in favor of anything that we get involved in that has anything to do with us running a site or being involved in anything where we collect fees. We have seen two in this reference right here that governmental bodies that close theirs. And people who are involved in private enterprise, more power to them. But I do not want to see anything that involves us, and whether it's placed on the agenda or not, that involves our efforts, enforcement. I mean, I had lunch with a city official of Champaign, and they couldn't control, as somebody just indicated, I believe Susan, who's putting things in there and what they're putting in there. And so they don't have the manpower to do that. So whether we're talking about something advisory or some models that we could do, I'm all for it. Anything that the county's involved in, I will stand on it. We won't support that.
Is your hand up, Mr. Mosher?
Yeah, I'd like to know why Sydney and St. Joe shut theirs down. Was it money, or was it because they were just getting a lot of trash in there that couldn't be recycled? There certainly was no control over either one of those sites.
I don't have that information. All I know is that they don't operate a site presently. I'd be happy to find out, let you know via email.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Are we talking to other private industries about expanding their acceptance of recyclable materials? I've heard from at least one private industry that is interested in expanding in the Champaign-Urbana area.
It's not part of the function that I serve. I'm here to disseminate information and promote recycling as our budget allows in our work program.
Ms. Petrie?
Point of clarification, what I'm interested in are ordinances that help reduce the amount of materials that end up having to be recycled. I'm not making any suggestions in any shape or form that the county get into the recycling business.
Mr. Nudo.
Well, again, I just want to point out, if there's enforcement involved, there's a cost involved, and an ordinance will require enforcement. So what I'm laying out in front of anybody who wants to have this on the agenda is that we need to be careful about what we're getting into before I want to know what the costs are and who's going to enforce it. Mr. Hall has a backlog of 500 complaints right now, and I'm not in the mode to add to them. So if private enterprise can get involved in that and we can give guidelines, I'm all for it. If we have ordinances that we're going to have enforceable, I'm not for it.
Any other discussion on this subject? Mr. O'Connor.
If it's appropriate, I think Mr. Rosenberg got some more to say. He's been trying to get your attention.
Mr. Rosenberg, would you like to
Thank you.
Actually,
give us further
you don't
information?
have to this time, I don't think.
So I just kind of want to clarify the ultimate purpose of what I'm trying to do. I am a private enterprise, but I'm not just trying to replace the recycling drop-off center. What I'm trying to do is create a center for anyone and everyone to use at their will, but we want to provide education, weekend workshops, reuse, repurposing, getting schools involved, getting other businesses involved, making it easy for people. To answer your question for the membership fees, so $5 a month is what we're requiring to be a member, and the reason that is to sustain our costs and expenses involved with running the facility, purchasing equipment, balers, facility. It's very important to people that a lot of people recycle because they want to, feel that they're doing their part. And I'm no person to say that other companies aren't necessarily handling their responsibility or what they say that they're doing. But what I'm saying is I want to provide an opportunity for this community and all of the surrounding communities, a place for, we want to accept materials that aren't recyclable at all. So, and through that, we create a network of materials exchange. And that's where the materials exchange program comes in. Point system is an incentive program for people to recycle that don't recycle. A lot of people, even though they have the curbside option, there's so many rules and regulations involved with it. They only take limited supplies. They only come once a week. Some people have reported that they've seen their haulers just put it in with the rest of the trash. There's all kinds of, when you have so many different companies running this and just there's no regulation to it, you're right, you don't really know. And so people are desperate for something. So why not create a center for people to utilize and actually see it happen, be a part of it as much as they want to, or if they want no part of it, they don't have to. But I don't think $5 a month is, an outrageous cost in order for us to sustain this program. So even though we are a private business, the only reason we're charging money is to cover our expenses. And the more members we have and the more money we generate, we plan to put it all back in the business so that we can expand out and handle more materials that are not recyclable and that are recyclable and are reusable. So any questions at all?
Mr. Schroeder?
I have a question, sir. You said not recyclable. Does that include electronic equipment?
No, not at this point. But okay. So what we do, especially with businesses, is if a business comes to us and says, we want to recycle our electronics, even though we will not accept it, we will help them find someone that will.
Because I participated the last time we had the countywide dump up there, and it was, you had to turn people away. Miss Mommy, I saw her up there too.
Yeah,
and a kid I used to work for me, he was working off a DUI, but it's just incredible. I've been there a couple times, but every time I'm just amazed of how much stuff is going into that. And there is a definite need for that, and it's going to get worse, I think.
Exactly, and that's the point. This is going to continue to be a bigger and bigger problem. And, if we keep turning our backs to it and just saying, you guys need to handle it, figure out how you're going to do it, then I don't know what's going to happen. But I really want to offer this opportunity to the people. And it really is in the people's hands as to what happens with this. So I know the need is out there. I know the want is out there. And I think it would make this community a much better place where people can actually go if they want to get involved, where they can do things and see it happening.
I want to encourage you, continue on, and hope you have success. And I want to ask you just one more question. What kind of items, if they're not being collected by anybody else, will you take that nobody else is recycling?
So the way that the model works is I've targeted some other companies that their business model revolves around reusing. So, for example, Rapid Refill. Is everyone familiar with that company? Yeah. So, right, exactly. Because why do you use them?
We lease to them. We have
Oh, you lease to them. Okay, well...
We use their product.
Right, but why do you use their product? Because
it's refillable and it's half
cheaper. It's way cheaper. So, for them as a business, what we want to do is become a hub. So, at the current center, you can't drop off your ink cartridges. But at our site, people will be able to do that. And so we can deliver them all of these ink cartridges. And we don't charge them for it because they're a member. They get that as being a part of a member. And that's how it kind of breaks down with everything. So, we plan to do things like wood pallets, maybe oil, chip bags. there are companies behind everything that I'm saying. That's model is off of reusing materials. And so we want to get those materials to them. Yeah.
Batteries and fluorescents?
So I know that Home Depot does the fluorescents, batteries. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the name of the company is. But, you know, as people are portraying to me what they need recycled, we will go out there and find a way to recycle it. And if we can't, we'll find a way to reuse it or repurpose it. So, you know, we want to offer as many solutions as possible. None of this will be possible if we don't get enough memberships, though. And I don't think, you know, $5 a month is too much to ask to get as many people involved as possible. But I do need help.
What's that? Yeah, Ms. Petrie?
Just a thank you for people in the county. We're about 2 decades behind what's happening around the country in doing this. And so I agree with Mr. Schroeder. I hope that you can get this up and off the ground.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Ms. Monty has just handed out an attachment with some numbers as to why, obviously, Champaign City is closing this recycling. It seems they're going to save about $148,000 a year on this. And as you can see, the cost from 2005 to 2010 has more than doubled.
Well, when they started out the program, it started out costing $17,000 a year for the city. And now it's gotten up to $148,000. So what that means, since the city is not a business and they're not, you know, going after the profits, that, you know, as the price rises, that means that the use of that site is increasing, and that is a pretty drastic increase. I mean, we keep laying it into children and, well, everyone to recycle. You know, it's so important to recycle, and now we have to take this away. And what I've done is I've come up with a business model that environmentally, financially, and sustainably supports this entire system.
Any more questions for Mr. Rosenbaum? Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. Appreciate it. I guess that's all the information we'll have on this. I guess in the future we'll hear more about it, so let's move on to the next agenda item, which is item B, which is the reaffirmation of resolution number 6336, resolution regarding a proposed chemical waste landfill over the Mahomet Aquifer in DeWitt County, Illinois. This is a previous board's resolution.
Point of order.
What's that? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Make a motion. First motion, second by Mr. Betts. Thank you. I appreciate that. Discussion. First, let me just make 2 observations. One, this is a reaffirmation of a previous board's resolution in 2008, which opposed this landfill in the Mahomet Aquifer and in DeWitt County, which is about to come to fruition, and it was placed on the agenda for reaffirmation of this new board. Secondly, on page 43, if you take a close look, on number 2, there are 2 names, Mary Gaddy and Margaret Guerrero. They are no longer in these positions. If we reaffirm this resolution, Mr. Hall will get us the correct names to send this resolution to, and it'll be changed for the county board meeting on Thursday, in 2 weeks, so that we have the correct names to send this resolution to. Mr. Weibel.
Procedure, actually, I think all we need to do is, by voice vote, reaffirm this, and I can write a letter saying we stand by this resolution.
Absolutely.
Simply, that's it. So we don't have to create a new resolution.
Okay. Mr. Quisenberry.
What effect do we expect to have by this reaffirmation?
Well, I'm hoping that the EPA, who is going, the state EPA, the Illinois State EPA, is about to issue, or from what I have heard from the Mahomet Valley Water Authority, that they're proposing a permit for this landfill. It's coming close to fruition, and hopefully Piatt County is sending their opposition to this as well. DeWitt County itself had 2 ballot initiatives on this, and both were overwhelmingly passed to oppose this landfill as well. Other counties are getting involved because what it really means is if they put this over the Mahomet Aquifer in DeWitt County, it's the same water we drink here and in 15 other counties. And the major concern, obviously, is leakage of toxic waste, PCBs, into our water system. And so a number of counties have sent resolutions to the EPA, and we would be that same. We would then send it to the new people who are now in position to make the decisions. Mr. James.
I was just going to state I agree with Pius. We all know that government agencies can move rather slowly, but once there's a resolution or a letter on hand, then that letter ought to stand, and if it doesn't stand, I would assume or hope that the other agency would contact us to see what our feeling may be, but I hate to always see resolutions on top of resolutions. Right, Pius?
Strictly, I actually would send a letter, if I may,
stating that it's
with a
still
copy of the resolution stating that we voted to affirm it, we stand by it, and tell the citizens that they're free to distribute this to whoever they want to.
Any other discussion? Mr. O'Connor.
Al, are we actually doing what it says here, just reaffirming?
Yes.
That seems
right. Is reaffirming that last board's resolution to oppose this landfill.
That certainly sounds like something that couldn't hurt and might help. I'll call the question.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. And the next is C, 9C, Recreation Entertainment License. The Recreation Entertainment License for Curtis Orchard Limited, 3902 South Duncan Road, Champaign, Illinois, from May 1st, 2011 through December 23rd, 2011.
Approval.
A motion? I'm sorry. Mr. Jones? Second. Mr. Jay? Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is Recreation Entertainment License for Gordyville, LLC, 2205 CR 300 North, in Gifford, Illinois, January 1st, 2011 through December 31st, 2011. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
James, Bensel, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did these go on consent agendas?
None of that goes to the county board.
Okay, we don't.
It's all done.
Okay. I have no report at this time. I just want to say that this was pretty exciting for me. I'm looking forward to the next 2 years to work with everyone on the board for the, Mr. James.
Did I miss number D, or are you giving your chair's report? Yeah, because it's...
We don't have any designations. D was removed from the agenda.
It's that atomic clock. It was off tonight.
Okay, Mr. James, thank you for your input. We appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not finished yet.
Well,
G?
right there, nothing on consent agenda.
No, there isn't. It was pulled from the agenda.
6 o'clock.
Hey, Oprah was here. There's nothing for the consent agenda. Are you giving us an orientation? All right, we have Mr. Hall giving us an orientation by planning and zoning. Mr. Hall.
All right, either experienced or new members, anytime you have a question, speak up, and I'll take the question. I hope we'll run through this in no more than 20 minutes. I'm going to try to do it in 15, but we'll see how that goes. This is the orientation to the Department of Planning and Zoning. our mission statement to enable the county board to formulate, and prioritize clear and effective policies, plans, and programs related to land use and development to implement the county board's policies and programs fully, effectively, and efficiently, and to provide the highest level of service to the public and maintain the highest professional standards possible within the limits of available resources. We report to the Environment and Land Use Committee. We administer these programs, the zoning ordinance, the subdivision regulations, stormwater management, special flood hazard area, public nuisance ordinance, the newly adopted rental habitability ordinance. We don't enforce that, but we provide information on it. These are our land use regulatory programs of the county board. Land use planning programs of the county board fall into two categories. Current planning, which is the zoning cases that we do in our office. Long-range planning, that's in consultation with the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. Miscellaneous items like you've seen on tonight's agenda. Review of zoning conformance for licensing. ELUC oversees the enterprise zone, but we have no responsibilities other than to make sure it gets on your agenda in a timely manner. That's what we do when we staff the agenda. The history of our department from 1973 to 1990, there was no planning and zoning department. There was a zoning office, and there were planners on staff in the Regional Planning Commission. In 1990, those two functions were merged into a Department of Planning and Zoning, still staffed by contract to RPC, although I was the first employee hired, and I always thought I was a county employee, so I've always been confused, apparently. In 2006, everything but long-range planning was brought over as a standalone county department. Long-range planning stayed with the RPC. We're a small office. There's myself, the director. James Knight is the associate planner. Jamie Hitt is the zoning officer. Jamie's been with the office since 1984. We have two planning and zoning technicians, Lori Busboom and Connie Berry. Connie's been with the department since the mid-90s, and Lori has, and Connie Berry started right around the turn of the century, if you will, but she's actually had experience in other county departments. So we actually have a lot of depth for a small department. The zoning ordinance is the largest of the county land use programs. One of the reasons is it requires conformance with all other land use programs. And again, these are those programs. Zoning's not a statutory requirement, so why does the county even have a zoning ordinance? Well, in fact, state law allows municipalities to zone land within 1.5 miles of their boundary if there is no county zoning. As I understand the history, that almost became a reality in 72 or 73, and it's one of the reasons we have a county zoning ordinance today. Rural folks did not want to have zoning imposed by municipalities. The other thing, this is actually something I think that is more relevant these days. Land use conflicts happen out there in your 1,000 square miles of Champaign County, and zoning is one way of regulating those. The primary conflicts that we hear a lot about in our department is the ever-present conflict between non-agricultural, rural development, and agriculture. And we see that as our main focus in our department, is trying to mitigate those conflicts. Zoning ordinance divides the zoning jurisdiction into different districts and then regulates the type of land use, the density of the land use, and minimum requirements for site development. Density of land use, that's talking really about land division. But the zoning ordinance doesn't actually control division of land. That falls under the subdivision ordinance. Nonetheless, density of land use is a basic zoning concern, and that's the main way that the county board has changed rural zoning in the past 12 years, is by requiring rezoning for rural subdivisions. County zoning jurisdiction in Illinois is the entire unincorporated area, and can also include any incorporated municipality that is agreeable. Champaign County actually zones 3 municipalities. Longview, I'm getting ahead of my notes here. Longview, which is down in this part of the county in Raymond Township, Dewey, which is up in East Bend, and Foosland, which is in Brown Township. Seymour is not incorporated as far as I know. The principal means of control is to require zoning permits for all construction and/or establishment of land use. Some land uses are authorized by right, which simply means come in, get a permit, you're free to go. Others need discretionary approval. That's either a special use permit or in some cases a rezoning. You may recall recently some folks wanted to locate their business along 136 east of Rantoul. They had to get a rezoning before they could do that. Once they had the rezoning, then it's just an issue of permitting. Agriculture is exempt from zoning except for the street setback, and we give courtesy permits for agricultural owners who want to come in and make it absolutely clear that the date their use was established, it was exempt from agriculture, and we don't charge anything for that. We're happy to do that free of charge, and it just documents that, yeah, that's an agricultural use, and they were established at that time. State law requires that in order to have a zoning ordinance, you must appoint and maintain a zoning board of appeals. The zoning board of appeals conducts public hearings for variances, appeals, special use permits, zoning map amendments, and zoning ordinance text amendments. You have a 7-member ZBA. In fact, one of the things on the agenda next month, I hope, is a reappointment of an appointment of a new chair for that board. We do the same things for the zoning board that admin services does for you. We prepare all their agendas, we organize and hold all their meetings, we produce all the minutes. There's 2 meetings a month, and ZBA minutes can get very detailed because in the discussion of the case, they actually establish conditions for that use, and it's very important that we can, 10 or 20 years in the future, go back and ascertain what the intent of the board was in any particular case. The state law requires the county board to decide all map and text amendments. Those are the things that come to you. The ZBA holds the public hearing, makes a recommendation, you make the final decision. State law provides for formal protest rights for map and text amendments, and we generally will report to you on those cases if a municipality has protested or if a neighbor has protested or even if a township plan commission protests. Now for map amendments, any formal protest right triggers the need for 21 of 27 elected members of the board to override that protest. Now, for bordering landowners, it has to be landowners that own 20% of the frontage, the perimeter of the property, including folks who live across the road. In regards to a municipal protest, any zone municipality within 1.5 miles can protest the amendment. Or if it's in a township with a plan commission, that township can protest the map amendment. In regards to text amendments, in fact, there's one protest missing here. Any zone municipality that is within 1.5 miles of that will be affected by the text amendment can protest. Now, in our case, we actually always have to send notice to Villa Grove. They're located in Douglas County, but their 1.5 miles falls into Champaign County. They actually have protest rights on map amendments within that area or any text amendment. Any township in our county that has a plan commission has a protest right on a text amendment, and we'll get to that in a minute. And I have to apologize, there is one protest right that's missing here. Landowners in the county, if more than, I think it's 5%, protest a text amendment, it triggers the supermajority requirement. So I'll have to correct that for the future. So in our case, we have 12 municipalities with adopted comprehensive land use plans. You can read them off there. In fact, there's about twice that many municipalities that have zoning, and so in regards to zoning amendments, we have to send notice out to about 24 different municipalities. 8 townships currently have plan commissions. East Bend did have a plan commission, but they no longer have anyone appointed. Now, they could reestablish that at any time, but right now, they do not have a sitting plan commission. But you can see that Newcomb Township, Mahomet Township, Hensley Township, Rantoul Township, Kerr Township, Compromise, Stanton, and St. Joe all have plan commissions. So anytime we amend the zoning ordinance, we send notice not just to municipalities with comprehensive plans, not just municipalities with zoning, but also these townships. Enforcing the zoning ordinance really is our top priority. It's also our biggest challenge because there's 1,000 square miles out there, and we send somebody, this year in fact, there's been someone from our office go out, I think almost every week, but they don't drive the 1,000 square miles. So we really don't know what's going on out there. We get calls from concerned neighbors. Just last week, we had an interesting call from a concerned neighbor up on County Highway 1, and we followed up on that call. We work closely with the state's attorney in all of our enforcement cases. We consider it a milestone when we actually get to the point where we can hand a case off to the state's attorney's office. It's happened 5 times this year. I wish it would have happened more. Not that more people would have gone so far as the state's attorney, but just that we could have gotten more cases processed to that extent. Important thing about the zoning ordinance is it requires all development to be consistent with all other land use regulations. Your subdivision regulations that govern the division of land and when a street is required, for example. The stormwater management policy that requires stormwater detention and protects agricultural drainage. Your special flood hazard areas ordinance that governs development in the 100-year floodplain. And there are sizable areas in Champaign County that are in the 100-year floodplain, but we don't really get much damage to the structures that are out there. And lastly, your public nuisance ordinance, which is the next one I'm going to review. The zoning ordinance is not a building code. It establishes requirements for things like how tall a building can be, how close it can be to a property line, but it does nothing in regards to life safety concerns to make sure that people are safe when they're using that building. Another thing the zoning ordinance doesn't do is ensure that the building is properly maintained. A property maintenance code does that, and it's not just to make sure the building looks good, but it's to make sure that critical life safety features are maintained in perpetuity in that building. In fact, a property maintenance code is similar to your nuisance ordinance in many ways. The nuisance ordinance regulates nuisance conditions arising from dangerous buildings or odor and noise from the activities that occur there or miscellaneous other conditions. It also regulates inoperable vehicles and accumulation of garbage and debris. Our nuisance ordinance has nothing in it about cutting grass or weeds. The nuisance ordinance doesn't replace a property maintenance code fully, nor does it make up for a building code. We do have a horrible backlog of enforcement cases for our public nuisance ordinance. The backlog dates from prior to 2006. Every year we try to get rid of more cases than come in. And for the past 2 or 3 years we've been doing that, but we really only have one person who can really step up and take a serious enforcement case from beginning to end. That's our zoning officer. And that's all she works on. We'll review the monthly reports later and see how we did this past year. In 2004, we prepared some priorities for your consideration, well, for ELUC's consideration, and ELUC approved those priorities. Our top priority is dangerous buildings. It doesn't matter how many complaints we have about garbage and debris or odor and noise, but we have to deal with dangerous buildings first. Accumulation of septic, sewage, and animal waste is also another high priority. Those are the things that can directly affect public health and safety. Last year, the board expanded your definition of dangerous structures so that it's more explicit what a dangerous structure can be. And now in Champaign County, a dangerous structure can be any building in which there is a critical life safety problem. Because that building is in fact dangerous. And so that's part of our new enforcement responsibilities. That issue doesn't come up that often, I'm happy to say, but there are historically some bad examples in our county, and we're ready for them the next time that happens. So we've talked about land use regulation. Now let's talk about land use planning. I'm not going to spend much time on current planning, which are those map amendments that you see come your way whenever the ZBA finishes one. I want to talk about long-range planning, which is done in consultation with the Regional Planning Commission. Again, you're not required to have a land use plan, so why do you have a land use plan? Number one, it provides a stronger legal basis for your zoning ordinance. Some people consider it essential for zoning. It's not actually essential, but it makes your zoning ordinance much stronger and much more able to withstand court challenge. As land use concerns become more important, a land use plan becomes more important, particularly in a county where there are municipal comprehensive plans. And again, we reviewed 12 municipalities in Champaign County have a planning jurisdiction. That does not diminish your own planning jurisdiction. There are some municipal planners in the county that like to argue that point, but it does not diminish your ability to plan. It does mean that you have to plan in the knowledge that the municipality has a plan, but that's what we're here for. Now, prior to last year, the county had a sort of plan. It had been in place since 1977. It consisted of land use goals and policies and your zoning maps. We can call that a plan because the courts called that a plan. In 2001, it was amended with land use regulatory policies, and those were amended again in 2005. But in 2007, the county board decided that they wanted to update their plan, and it was adopted on April 22nd, 2010. It's the Land Resource Management Plan. It consists of 3 volumes. 2 of the volumes are rather long. I'm happy to say the one volume that you'll deal with most is the shortest. It's Volume 2. Volume 1 documents existing conditions. The steering committee considered these 10 factors. These are all the factors that are relevant to a land use plan and more specifically a land resource management plan. After they reviewed these 10 conditions, they summarize key existing conditions and trends in Chapter 13. I think that Volume 1 is a fascinating document. I think it's one of the best I've seen. I think it's certainly adequate for Champaign County. I think it's a very good document. Volume 2 is the plan itself. It's Volume 2, Champaign County Land Resource Management Plan. It consists goals, objectives, and policies. Goals address these 10 topics. Each goal has objectives that some have 1, some have more, and then there are policies to support the goals and objectives. Now, again, some have criticized the LRMP for being too long, but the 1977 land use goals and policies that it replaced included 34 goals and 57 policies. And those were later supplemented by 18 land use regulatory policies, which were then amended and expanded to 27. So, in fact, to do a plan for a county as diverse and as energetic as Champaign County, in 77, we ended up with around 100 eventually. And in 2010, we ended up with, again, 101 policies. I don't think there's any apologies that need to be made for that. I think that's what Champaign County needs. The other thing that Volume 2 has is the future land use map. I think this is a fascinating map. You all should have a copy of or could have had a copy of this It's on your website at any time you want to look at it. And I'll just finish this screen by saying that most of that map that you see there, the land use recommendation for the future is primarily agriculture. So the plan doesn't recommend far out changes in rural land use. The last thing that Volume 2 has is the implementation strategy. Experienced members of this board know that you're going to be taking this up this year with the work in our department and with the planners from the RPC. The implementation strategy identifies priority items necessary to implement the policy and meet the goals. It suggests a time frame for implementation, suggests there being the key word. And then each year that you go through your budget exercise to prepare your budget for the coming year, you will revisit this plan and prioritize what you want to spend the money for the following year. You did that last year, and we'll be coming to you in the January study session with the first text amendment to amend the zoning ordinance to implement some of the goals and policies of Volume 2. Volume 3 is the appendices. I bet I myself hardly ever pick up Volume 3. You have no need to pick up Volume 3. But, okay, we lost the track of our program. But there is something in Volume 3 that you might want to take a look at. Volume 3, the very last thing in that volume is documentation of all of the public involvement. Well, I apologize, I have one more slide here. But it documents all the public involvement that was involved with the LRMP. And the public involvement included everything from a survey of township officials in every township in the county, 2 public workshops regarding what people would like to see in regards to future land use, and also all the comments received by the county board in January of this year before they adopted the LRMP. Again, I think the effort put out on this LRMP was a tremendous effort. You paid for it. Well, the citizens paid for it. You're the ones that approved the money being spent, and I think you got a lot more than you paid for. I know that it's a lot of money. I know some people think that it's just way too long of a plan, but again, Volume 2 is the one that you're going to be working with, and it's the shortest one. It's really very short and concise. Now, that's the orientation to the department. On your desk tonight, well, new board members got a stack of all of our land use regulations, and they got these tables, which are sort of a quick guide to the various responsibilities of the ZBA, ELUC, and county board. Folks who came onto the board in 2008 got tables like this also. I think Patsy may not have this table because Patsy got all of her documents earlier. And I'll get you a copy of that, Patsy. And Astrid, we haven't gotten you one document yet since you came on the board to replace Sam Smucker. I apologize for that. We'll get those out to you. Everybody got a copy?
Excuse me, add me to the list too. I did not get that.
Sorry, Diane. Okay, anyone else? Everyone should have got a copy of our monthly report for October and November, which was the annual summary. And FY10 was like FY09. Would have been our lowest number of zoning cases, except FY09 was actually lower. But in FY10, we worked on 5 text amendments. We got a approval from you to start a 6th one. It hasn't been started yet. It opens at a public hearing this month on the 16th. So we did fewer cases, but we added those text amendments because we knew we were going to have time to work on them. In permitting, we did in fact set a new record low. Only 132 permits last year. That's the lowest. FY09 was the previous low at 190 permits. So last year was really very low in permitting. On the other hand, we did 853 inspections last year. Now, we did do 250 of those via aerial photograph for construction that happened before the photograph occurred. It was a quick, easy way to do it. We had already visited those properties, so 250 of those were a piece of cake. But even at that, 600 inspections, I don't know the last time we did 600 inspections. So yes, it was low on permitting, but it gave us a chance to get caught up on inspections that were lacking. Enforcement, we resolved 119 cases last year. We received a total of 99 new cases, so we made a little progress on the backlog. We are going to try to do better next year, and I'm going to keep bumping those numbers up every year until we reach a point at which I don't think we can do anymore. But every year we try to find new ways to do things quicker, simpler, and easier. Our zoning technicians, they're doing a lot more than they were hired to do. They're pitching in and they're helping the zoning officer on inspections. This year we're going to get them involved in enforcement cases. So we are being productive. I can say that confidently. We're being productive. And if there are any questions?
How many of those nuisance or repeat offenders? I drove by a couple of the good ones just to see what kind of mess they had, and they're right back at it again.
We're dealing with a couple right now, but I really don't think that they're really even a major part of it. People find new ways to violate the nuisance ordinance all the time. New people find new ways to violate it.
There's one other thing I'd like for you to look at. Lynn County, Iowa, which is Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. I visited with a farmer at an auction the other day, and he said they're trying to put building codes in there, and it's turned into a civil war with the Farm Bureau and the farmers. And I don't know what the thing looks like, but it sounded like they're going to make you rewire every building you got and conduit, and I don't know if they've got a right to farm law out. They surely do, but I'd like to see what they stuck in that.
So it's your understanding, Steve, that the building code applied to agriculture as well as anything else?
It's going to apply to everything in that county.
That's an interesting approach.
Any other questions?
I'll look into that.
I'm sorry. Mr. Carter?
Yeah. Just wondering, we were working on that once. What happened to our ordinance? Did that include the wiring and the framing of our buildings?
We have no regulations on those two things.
We never did get that done.
Now, in fact, every new building built in our jurisdiction today is supposed to be built according to a code that is mandated by the state. Champaign County has not adopted a building code, but building codes, the requirement for building code exists from the state. No one knows how well that's being met because no one enforces it.
I don't know. It is a problem. You ever try to work in a building that was built in the county and go and try to revamp that building? It is terrible. It's really terrible. I don't know. Well, to me, I don't know how a human being would want a subject to burn up because he lived in the county than in the city. I just don't understand why they don't want a code that's going to protect their family in the county just as well as the city.
Ms. Petrie?
I have 3 questions. Could we go back? I think it's the second slide that you showed.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Okay.
Just pick your second slide. I'll see if I counted correctly. No? Okay, one more. Okay, right there. Rental habitability ordinance, and that's an asterisk. It's not enforced by Champaign County. Could you give me some background on that?
Sure. That ordinance was adopted to implement the Rental Right to Repair Act, which is an act, it's a state law that gives renters the right to repair if the landlord doesn't make the repair in a timely manner. up to a certain amount. It provides for the cost of the repair to count towards the rent. So it's strictly an issue between the renter and the landlord. But in order for the renter to be able to take advantage of that law, the local jurisdiction has to have a requirement for the maintenance of the property. And so what the rental habitability ordinance does, it establishes a requirement for maintenance of property, makes it very clear that the county doesn't enforce it, and it makes it very clear that it's only meant to implement the Right to Repair Act.
Second, who is your source as a land use attorney for some of these issues that come up?
Our only attorney is the state's attorney.
Okay, and then last, are you going to post your PowerPoint presentation somewhere on the county website, either under ELUC or somewhere, so it can be a reference?
If you'd like to see it, if the committee would like to see this available on the website, we could do that.
John, it would by nature be posted with the attachments for this meeting tonight. That's where we would put it, is with this committee of the whole meeting attachments for tonight's meeting.
But that really varies it for the public to ever find out this kind of information. I was looking for it to be put in a spot where it'd be much easier for the public to find.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way, Patsy, that's up to $500 on that ordinance for the renter. Are there any other questions? All right. I guess that's all we have for ELOC. Thank you.
We don't have to close meetings, do we?
Okay, because Kat is ill, we don't have the closed sessions minutes to approve, so we don't need to do that, so therefore, we're adjourned.